The president we have today doesn't care, doesn't give a darn about it, okay? And the Congress we have today is half asleep. They're not seeing the great crisis that's coming. And I keep warning people, and Elon Musk even said it. He said, I've been warning people, but no one's listening to me. He says, I've been telling people they're coming, the robots are coming, but they won't get it till they see them coming down the street at them. And he said, if we have a normal dictator, he'll die, and maybe we'll have freedom. But with the AI dictators coming, he'll be evil, and there will be no freedom.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the Miles Franklin Weekly Specials for September 1st through September 8th, 2025, while supplies last. 1 ounce gold Pamp Fortuna Veriscan bars are $99 over spot per ounce. 10 ounce silver Royal Canadian Mint bars, $2.49 over spot per ounce. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.
Welcome back to Liberty and Finance. We're delighted to have this returning guest. John Whitehead is the founder of the Rutherford Institute. He's a constitutional attorney who has argued cases up to and including the United States Supreme Court in defense of individuals and organizations that have suffered at the hand of government overreach. John, thank you for joining us again on Liberty and Finance.
Hey, thank you for having me on, sir.
I think our audience often responds quite sympathetically to your appeals for the rights of the individual, because your mission to stand up for freedom and for the Constitution is very well aligned with the concerns of our subscribers on that exact topic. And we wanted to get with you right now because there have been a number of actions taken by the current administration in Washington that have raised a lot of concern across the country, not only for freedom of speech, freedom of privacy rights, and also the ability of individual locations to govern themselves rather than to be intruded upon by federalized troops. There's always multiple sides to every story. We wanted to get your view of these things. So if we could start it out by a topic that you've addressed with us before, and that's individual privacy versus surveillance. What examples do you currently see that are new steps towards a surveillance state, and where specifically do you see constitutional rights being at risk?
Well, with Musk coming in originally and working with Doge and all that, AI was brought in to do a lot of that. AI is basically, in my opinion, taking over the globe, and it will eventually probably. If we listen to some of the experts that have come out, people from Google and otherwise are actually saying it now. I mean, they have a robotic child now that you can have in your womb in China, and they're giving birth to that. So we really moved to a scene. I started writing about AI back in the 1980s when I first saw of it coming, but it's gotten to the point now where anything you do, I mean, Trump has admitted he's working with Peter Thiel of Palantir. And they issued a press release not too long ago, by the way, a couple of weeks ago, saying that they were working with the Amazon, Apple, Google, OpenAI, and a number of the other institutions and sharing information on people. Then we had Robert F. Kennedy come forward with the idea of having wearables on Americans, where you put them on your body or your wrist or whatever, and it would actually clog into anything that's going on in your body, and it would be reporting it to the government. In other words, you become then a part, almost like a cell in the big demon or whatever you want to call it, and you're watched very carefully. What you drink, what you smoke, what you do, where you walk, and all those things will be completely tracked now. And with this new Real ID that's coming forward now, which is going to be focused on your face and any mannerisms and things you might say, do, roll your eyes or whatever, you're going to be watched. We're becoming really closely what George Orwell referred to as newspeak, which is basically government-controlled information. And if you step out of line, they can come and deal with you in some way. You may be considered insane, mentally ill, or whatever. And I see this coming, by the way. It happened in Europe under Hitler, Stalin, and the Soviet Union, where if you said the wrong word, they were in Stalin's Soviet Union, they were arresting painters who did paintings that might have been, considered disobedient. And people writing poetry were being arrested. We're moving very closely to that kind of set of algorithms, and we're basically being viewed as algorithms now. It's only going to get worse, and in my opinion, in terms of what's happening. However, the thing that they're doing really, really well is they're not like jumping forward and say, "Here it comes, smoke, here it comes." They're doing it very quietly behind the scenes. Occasionally, when the press finds out something, they do a press release. But basically, where we're headed in the future, in my opinion, is very, very scary. And trying to wake people up is difficult because they like basically staring at their TV screens, their new phones, and all the things that are happening. And it's gone beyond anything that the early thinkers that were worried about this back in the 1940s and 50s when they first saw television sets. So that's basically where we're headed. And Trump's got no problem with it at all. And I mean, when you have in this country, and this is really scary, when you have a masked men with black masks on coming up to people and arresting them, not saying who they are and taking them away and things like that, and ending up in places like they call the alligator Alcatraz, we're moving into what's basically called a martial law state. When you have the military policing in Washington, D.C., threatening Chicago, New York, that's called martial law. Now, you're talking to a veteran. I was a lieutenant. I trained troops back in those days. Dealing with the generals in those days and stuff like that, none of them liked that kind of stuff. I mean, I had some discussions with them when I was there before I went to law school. But now it's martial law. I mean, they can come to your door now and bang your door down. But I was warning people back in the late 1980s and early 2000s when I saw the SWAT team raids happening. About 80,000 a year with armed police troops with AK-47s, armored helmets, armored MRAPs coming in people's houses and banging through doors and people getting shot. We've been moving in that direction for a while, so we've been acclimated to it. So I think that we're coming to that point where either you obey or you might end up in a place where you don't want to be.
Well, you can't be too critical on SWAT because when I was in second grade, I had a SWAT lunchbox and with George Papard and Mr. T on the cover. So I'm sure the fact that second graders had that back then meant it was safe and cuddly and friendly and not any threat to our constitutional liberties.
Yeah, but when you find servicemen in some cases, we've been involved in some of them awful, where they crash through doors looking for something or somebody, they're not there, the wrong house. And I had a SWAT team. This is amazing. A police chief called me. He said, "John, I used to disagree with all your stuff on the SWAT stuff." He said, "I'm quitting the SWAT team raids." I said, "Why? What happened?" He said that his men crashed through the door of a house, and one of the SWAT team guys actually put an AK-47 to a 4-year-old kid's head. He said, "We were jerking away. We saw we were overtrained." And I've had some people actually teaching in the police academies come to me and talk to me about, they're really concerned about the fact that they're teaching the police to view Americans as enemy combatants. So they're training them militarily. Remember on the side of police cars that said, "Protect and serve." Well, that's their job. And but with the military coming in now and Trump loving it and all this stuff, I mean, when you have a president saying, his actual quote is, he says, as long as I'm president of the United States, I can do what I want to do. No. We, the people, are the government. He's not. And that's why I'm trying to encourage people to really think it through. If you read the Constitution, we, the people, do ordain and establish this government. And we're supposed to be in charge of our government. Problem is that people have stepped away from it. We're not very active in our government anymore.
This phenomenon of martial law sprouting up in different areas of the country is something that you talked with us about over the past 2 or 3 years as you visited our channel, many considered that to be sort of fringe extremism or doom talk. And yet here, one of the principles, and we've been, back when we talked with Jerry Robinson, the author of Bankruptcy of Our Nation, he talked about how the anesthesiologist comes in and numbs you down before the surgeon makes the cut, as a metaphor being that the idea of our own troops, our own police and everything turning against American citizens was unthinkable just a few years ago. And those who said, folks, this is coming, were being told, oh, you're just being Chicken Little, saying the sky is falling. And yet, even in the last few months, the cases that have been touted in the news of, look at the success we have getting rid of these bad guys and those bad guys and these bad guys, whatever the merits are that are being served there, the underlying principle of this training that you mentioned of these federal troops or militarized troops actually being trained against those living in the U.S. and sometimes American citizens. And those are some of the people you've defended in cases against the authorities as people whose rights were trampled, who were American citizens, even veterans. Back to the topic you brought up of privacy, do you believe currently that mass data collection under the guise of national security can be reconciled with the Fourth Amendment's protection against unreasonable search and seizure?
Oh, no. That's the other thing is they're ignoring the Bill of Rights and destroying the Bill of Rights. Fourth Amendment's really clear. I mean, you have to have some kind of evidence that somebody's doing something wrong or illegal, whatever they might be doing, to even go to a judge and get a warrant. Not under this surveillance. And that's why I've been arguing for coming up with a electronic privacy bill of rights. We're actually working on something like that right now and protecting us, because the Fourth Amendment, really clear on that, but having judges and stuff are going to be very specific on what our issues are. And I'm a little concerned about some of the judges that I talked to. They're not really that up to the date on what's going on in terms of rights and stuff like that. They live in an older age. That's why some people are really complaining about the Supreme Court today, going, why are they approving everything Trump's doing? When back in my day, that was their right. There was no way, back off, Mr. President. We the people, and you go back to that. And civil liberties are the key in knowing the Bill of Rights. But like I said, I've said this many times to people on talk shows or whatever. When I talk to lawyers today, American citizens, and I ask them about the Bill of Rights, they look at me like, I say, give me the 5 freedoms of the First Amendment. And they look at me and start mumbling. They don't know them. Come on, you got to be kidding me. Anybody graduating from grade school should know that. They don't learn it in high school. I had a college student tell me, by the way, he was in law school at a major university, one of the big hotshot universities in the United States. She said, I was just shocked when I took constitutional law. I said, why? She said, our professor announced the first day, there's one section we're not going to be discussing today or all year. She said, I'm eliminating it. He said, the First Amendment. And I went, wait, right to free speech, the right to religion, the right to tell your government to get out of here as long as you're peaceful and protest and all that. They don't want that. And what I'm calling for is an educated citizenry. One that knows their rights, and we got to start teaching them in schools, all the schools. You got a chance to do it, folks. We have a pamphlet that actually teaches it that you can get if you go online at rutherford.org, and we'll send it to you. But the whole point is that education precedes action. If you don't know what the Bill of Rights are, well, I mean, you mentioned the Fourth Amendment. Some police don't know it. We had a case where a guy was actually protesting in a big city on the street corner. Police pulled up and got out of the car, and they were pretty aggressive. He had some sign saying government sucks or whatever, which is constitutional. And they said, what are you doing here, man? He goes, I'm exercising my First Amendment rights. And he read the pamphlet to him and handed the pamphlet to the policeman and went, well, we get it. He got back in the car and drove off. So the point is, education precedes action, folks. Learn your rights and all this and stuff, because the president we have today doesn't care, doesn't give a darn about it, okay? And the Congress we have today is half asleep. They're not doing this and stuff like that. They're not seeing the great crisis that's coming. And I keep warning people. And Elon Musk even said it. He said, I've been warning people, but no one's listening to me. He says, I've been telling people they're coming, the robots are coming, but they won't get it till they see them coming down the street at them. And he said, if we have an AI, if we have a normal dictator, he'll die and maybe we'll have freedom. But with the AI dictators coming, he'll be evil. There will be no freedom, basically. So that's what we're facing, folks. You better get your action together, learn your rights. And I mean, it's power to the people. We have the right. We, the people, again, have the power. And I mean, you're going to get your head knocked in. I mean, I have people tell me all the time, you're crazy. Let's just relax and all this stuff. Well, that's okay. If your next door neighbor's getting their head shot off, folks, or down the block or across the state or whatever, I can't relax because that's what we as people need to do and be ready to fight for freedom.
On this point of emergency powers and martial rhetoric, where has the federal use of emergency powers undermined constitutional checks and balances in your view?
Well, if it's so-called emergency powers by executive order or decree, and like I said, Trump said it not too long ago. He said, as long as I'm president, I can do whatever I want to do. That's a dictator, okay? We don't need a dictator in America. Someone thinks like that, no. And I mean, if we're being invaded by people from outside the country or whatever, or our cities are collapsing under great violence, sure. But we haven't seen any of that really, no. He's threatening to go to Chicago with the martial law. He's threatening to go to New York City. He's just threatening all this stuff. And why is he doing it? And you mentioned something other, some of the politicians mentioned people as bad or evil. And Trump's going to say these are evil people. They're nasty people. Well, how the heck does he know? Did he ever meet them? And here's the same thing. That was the same kind of language that Adolf Hitler and the Nazis used. And they finally rounded up the people that were evil and put them in so-called concentration camps. And guess what we got, folks, spread around the country with things like alligator Alcatraz in Florida, as we move into this prison kind of complex state. And I tell people, if you don't know what kind of country you're living in, let me give you the name of it, folks. Military, industrial, presidential, congressional, police prison complex. That's where we're at today. And this is all going to be modeled and groomed by AI. Okay? And if you've got a wearable on your arm or whatever, or you have a biochip in your body, you do the wrong word in your brain, they're going to be watching you, folks. That's what's coming if we don't stop it.
At the state level, about state sovereignty versus federal overreach, and this is an area where you've gotten involved as well, do state nullification efforts against federal overreach, whether it's gun laws, environmental mandates, education standards, do they have a strong constitutional basis?
Yes, they do. It's called the 10th Amendment. I keep telling local community and state people, you can nullify acts of the federal government. The problem is most of the state governments are aligned with what's going on, unfortunately, and are putting up with it. As long as you put up with it, you're going to get it. Sooner or later, you get your head kicked in. And I'm trying to get states and local governments to say, no, we're going to get together and get a coalition and fight back on what we're seeing. If 10 states actually made a coalition and said, we're fighting what Trump doing, Trump would go bananas. He gets so upset over it. He doesn't want to see any resistance, no. And yeah, states can do it, but you need to elect people who are not going to get the job so they can sit on their butt every day as the governor and get fed fancy food and all this stuff and actually do nothing. No. The governors of the states need to be pushed heavy. The 10th Amendment allows them to do that. And I'd love to hear some of these governors speaking back really clearly. And there are a few out there now doing it. And not the wisest people, I would say, the way they're doing it, but there is a way to do it civilly and resist what we're seeing happening. It's all there, people. We wouldn't have a government had it been for people who said, I'm going to speak back against the government, like Thomas Jefferson and people like that, who wrote the Declaration of Independence. And he said, obedience to God is disobedience to the government. That's a pretty powerful statement.
So on this point that you're on now of citizen action, what legal or civic mechanisms still exist to check the unconstitutional actions by the national government?
You have the 10th Amendment. It's there. It's not been nullified. You just have to exercise it. And when I mentioned the 10th Amendment to government officials on a local level, a lot of them look at me and go, what? I said, here, read it. Yeah. See, again, they're not taught it in the schools or nothing. Nobody knows it, The Bill of Rights, by the way, the first 10 amendments of the Constitution are butt kickers, The guy who wrote it, James Madison, said we ought to mistrust all those in power. They didn't trust anybody in government. That's why they came up with these Bill of Rights, so that the citizens would be able to say, oh, we're not putting up with this stuff. Don't be crashing through the doors of our home. No. Don't be arresting those people for carrying banners in the city. Come on. This is a right in America. We need people to exercise their freedoms. And there's nothing better. I agree with what I've seen with some young people who get involved in it. It's really good for their minds to see that they have the power, more power than the government, if they exercise it.
So speaking of individuals, what role should citizens specifically play in challenging federal overreach through civil disobedience or lawsuits or local governance?
Get down with your local governments and start learning how to do it properly. We've written a lot of articles. You go to our website on people, how you can do it and work and all the information you need. But you have to learn the Bill of Rights, first of all, which says as long as it's peaceful, you can do it. Get out there. And the government does not like people outside picketing. No, we've defended a lot of people across the land that do that, and they sometimes get fined or arrested. But we're winning those cases if they're peaceful, and you can do it. You don't need to be violent. Violence is what they want you to do. You get violent, then the media and stuff cover it and says these are a bunch of violent fools. So don't get violent. Be peaceful. Exercise it. Plan. And you can do it. Like I said, get the Bill of Rights pamphlets and stuff that we have, learn them, teach your kids them, get your kids involved in some of this stuff, which would be good for them. And my dad, by the way, was a petitioner and a petition in front of buildings and stuff like that. And he taught me basically, hey, don't sit on your butt, son. If you want to keep freedom alive, get up and fight for it.
My parents were war tax resistors and took me to some demonstrations as well. So that started, I was kind of from the cradle, brought up in that milieu. Now, you've mentioned Rutherford.org a few times and the resources that are available there. I want to make sure that people are crystal clear. You have just boatloads of free pamphlets and educational materials and all kinds of things at Rutherford.org. Can you give us just in broad categories what kinds of things people will find at Rutherford.org?
I've written over 30 books. We got books there that I've written, like Battlefield America, Going with the Wolves, at Rutherford.org. Go there, and we do a weekly commentary, which is heavily footnoted. It's not conspiracy stuff. It actually goes into things you can do. And there's all kinds of stuff you can look and find out. See, we've got a constitutional section, and get educated. Like I said, education precedes action. And folks, we better act pretty soon, because I can see freedom draining away into the swamp of we see.
And for those who are homeschooling, you've got First Amendment, 10th Amendment, basically Bill of Rights, educational materials suited for grade schoolers or for high schoolers, et cetera, on your website at Rutherford.org. And we're just grateful for your presence here. If there was one message, in addition to one that you've kept hammering on today, which is education precedes action and get involved, if there was one, I guess, call to action that you could give to our 125,000 subscribers, what would that be?
Well, like I said, education. You gotta know your rights, read them and understand them, pass on to your children, and just exercise them, folks. Local governments, they fear anybody that pressures them, and you could actually pressure them to exercise their 10th Amendment right to turn some of this stuff around against the federal government.
We've been speaking with John Whitehead. He's the founder of the Rutherford Institute. You can find that at Rutherford.org. The spelling of Rutherford is at the bottom of your screen. We'll also put a link in the description of this video. John Whitehead, thank you for joining us again here on Liberty and Finance.
Thank you, sir.
This is Kaiser Johnson with Liberty and Finance, and these are the Miles Franklin Weekly Specials for September 1st through September 8th, 2025, while supplies last. 1 ounce gold Pamp Fortuna Veriscan bars are $99 over spot per ounce. 10 ounce silver Royal Canadian Mint bars, $2.49 over spot per ounce. To order our specials or any of the many other options we have available, call us at 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 1-888-815-4237. We're available after hours and on weekends, and we look forward to speaking with you.